Hi, this is Nick from thatsportscienceblog.com. Welcome to the fourth video in building a monitoring system for your sports science team. Today we're going to look at building a weekly loading graph that will be dynamic by player and metric. So this is part of the dashboard and the reporting stage. So far for the dashboard, as you can see, I've neatened up the the session loading graph, so we can sift through that by player, and we can sift through that by metric there. Okay, so what we want is underneath it, we would want a weekly loading graph. So if we come to our player order sheet, as you can see again, I've just neatened the 4-week session loading graph data up in a nice little table there. So I'm going to insert some columns here. And what we want here is we want to have the whole season's loading for the player that we're selecting. So we know that if we come to a database, we know that the first session was done the 6th of July, our last session was done the 30th of April. So if I come over here, I'm going to write the 6th of the 7th of the 15th, and then underneath it, I'm just going to write equals and just add 1 onto that, so it increases it by 1 day. And I'm just going to drag that down until I get to the end of the season, which is just about there. I'm going to put a border on that. I'm going to come up to the top, and we're going to come over here and we're going to take our field headings. So I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them in there. And what I'm going to look up is this value here. So I'm going to VLOOKUP that value. So I'm going to lock it by column, comma, come to my pivot table, come just slightly outside of my pivot table, and take it down slightly further than the end of the pivot table, because the pivot table will be, you might add data into it, so it might get larger, and you'd want to be able to look up that information. So now I want to return the column index number, so 1, 2 for duration, comma, and I want the exact match. I'm going to close brackets there, just center, border that. Okay, and just double click this little one here, and you see so that drops that down for the whole table. You see that error there where it's saying there is no data for that date. That means that that it was probably a rest day. So we just want to use an if error to return nothing for those cells, so that we know that there was no loading done on that day. So if I drag that across now, okay, you'll see that it returns duration. So I need to increase the column reference. So that's be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, and then double click that down. And that's put every session in chronological order for that player for that season. So now what we need to do is we need to work out the totals for each individual week. So we're going to come here, and I'm going to write week 1 there, and this will be the week start, and this will be the week finish. And the week start will be the 6th of the 7th, because we already know that. And then the week end will be this plus 6. So we change the formatting on these cells to just put 3 Ds and a space there, and you get the Monday and the Sunday on there. So we know that this will be that plus 7, and again that plus 6. Okay, and what we have there is we have the start of the week, the number and the figure for the start of the week, and the number and the figure for the end of the week. So we just need to drop that down, so we get the whole season's worth of weeks in there. Should probably be yeah, just 43 weeks there. Okay, so Brilliant, that's done. We have a date for the start, a date for the finish. Now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to take these metric or field headings there, pop them in there. Okay, so we need to look up the duration between that date and that date. So I'm going to write equals sum ifs. Okay, the sum if range is the duration, the metric that we're looking up. So come to this table, hit F4, hit F4 again. So if we drag that across, we then slide the column across there as well. So it's just locked by rows. The criteria range, now this is an important bit. The criteria range will be the date. Okay, and we're going to hit F4 and that will stay locked column and row. And then we're going to hit comma. Now the criteria, so now we're on this bit. The criteria is, well, we want it to be greater than Monday the 6th. Okay, any date that's greater than Monday the 6th, we want to add up. So we're going to hit open quotation mark. Oh, okay, no, we're not doing that. Come back in here. Open quotation marks, the greater than sign, or equals to, close quotation marks, and this date here, and we'll lock that by column. Okay, and I'm just going to hit enter there, and what you can see is it returns a very large number, because what Excel has done there is it's added up every bit, every duration here that is greater than that date. So it's added up them all. So now what we need to say is, well, if it's greater than that, then don't include it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back into here. We're going to use the same dates column, hit F4 on that, hit comma on that. Okay, then open quotation marks, less than, equals to, okay, and then the ampersand, this day here. Okay, and lock that by column, hit enter, and now we've got 401, and we can double check that up here. So it should be to Sunday the 12th, duration equals sum. Okay, Sunday the 12th. We got 401 minutes. Brilliant. It's exactly the same. So if I drag that across, it's worked that out for all the rest of those metrics. And again, if I drag this across, okay, my red zone time will be 40 minutes. And it's 40 minutes there, so that's all been done for us. It's now calculating the weekly totals, okay, between those two dates. I drag that down. That's all been done for us. If I now highlight here, and just for example pick high speed running, and then insert a graph, you can see we already have a graph that would return the weekly totals for high speed running, but we want it dynamic. So I'm going to link this cell up to our dashboard, and it will be linked up to your metric drop down. Enter that. Okay, and then this will be our dynamic one. Okay, so we're going to use a H lookup. We're going to look up that value, and that's locked. Comma it, table array, so that's what we're looking up, and then we're returning those data sets. Lock that, comma, we're going to use a rows incrementer, down and then up, plus 1, comma, and we have the exact match. Okay, and we're just going to lock that by rows, and we're just going to, don't need any decimal places there, and we're going to drag that down. Okay, so that should link up with a high speed running there. So that's all done. So now I have to do is switch that graph reference onto the dynamic range. There you go, and it's still high speed running, so that hasn't changed. I'm going to cut this graph, come to my dashboard, paste that graph in there, just neaten it up slightly. You can spend a lot of time doing that. Weekly loads, okay, delete those, add in some data labels, probably have those side on, just format data series, make those bars a little thicker. Okay, so quite quickly you're getting something that looks a little bit better, and then you can see that you can click through any player there. Okay, any metric you want to look at. So now we're looking at total distance. Okay, and you can very quickly pick out maybe weeks or loading blocks that might create a problem, might jump out at you. Okay, and you can see if that's the same for different metrics there. And identify loading problems quite quickly. So hopefully that's been useful and helpful and easy to follow. Please log in for more videos. Bye bye.